maybe some of you don't, because I asked you this a week or two ago, some of you don't pay attention to the news. I wish I could do the same, because not really news. It's like an assault on the senses of every kind. But what I've been following has been mostly it is an attack on religious freedom. And although I just said it from the pulpit, I do not judge somebody's decisions, what they choose to do with their life or their person. But don't shut me up over what I have a right to proclaim if I so choose to. I just choose to preach one text which covers everything. But I notice that this is it's a trend. I don't know who posted this, but I was telling some of the staff that I had seen that July 1st was Straight Pride Day. And apparently the person whoever posted it got absolutely massacred by people on social media. How dare you? That's where I'm perplexed. If you're going to celebrate one life, celebrate another. Don't pick and choose what you celebrate. If you're going to celebrate, you have the choice to celebrate whatever you want, but don't stop me if I want to celebrate my own celebration of whatever it is I want to celebrate. Right? Yes, ma'am. So we are not only, we're a country in crisis, but the church is very confused about what its role should be. Now, I've tried very hard to stay quiet. It's very hard for me politically. I'm trying to zip it. I don't want to be one of the people contributing to the chatter. But when that conversation turns towards the church, I'm not sure where I read this, but it was from a news outlet, that there is legislation being considered in the state of California. Of course, it could only happen here in California first. If you're looking for the oddities, look no further than right here. If pastors are going to talk about the subject of homosexuality, or if a pastor is, I'm going to use the word caught, trying to help or teach, or say an individual comes to that particular pastor and says, I would like to be straight again in my preferences, and that pastor is caught doing that in the state of California, they will be fined. And that is willful on the part of the individual. This is not, I read carefully, this was not some coercion of pastor putting his or her ideologies or theologies. This is the individual seeking help. So there's a lot of stuff going on I think people are just kind of turning a blind eye to. And they're, the ones that are speaking for the church are not necessarily good representation of the church, because they represent that faction that is legalistic, and they'd condemn anybody for any reason. So there is no voice of sanity. And if things go the way they look like they're going to go, this will actually come to pass. You start there, and then you keep letting it erode a little bit until you're told what you can or cannot say. Now, I don't think I say anything too controversial. I just say whatever it is, and whatever it is, it is. But I do think that this is going to get to the point where when people are essentially being censored for what they can or cannot say in the church. Remember what is supposed to be: the government shall not establish. These are echoes of words that are now being blown away by voices that are absolutely demanding that the church change and conform to the world. Now, say whatever you want. I'm earnestly praying that the Lord comes before it gets to the point of, you can't say anything at all. But the good thing is that I think there's probably a handful left in the church of pastors who will do whatever they have to do. That's not speaking and saying, well, I'm suddenly deciding to speak on this subject because. Just generally, to maintain the integrity of no one being able to come in and say, you can't say that. Now, here's what's disturbing me. I told you about this large denomination, and the women are very disturbed that they can't have equal rights in this particular denomination. Well, they should just leave, and leave those people to, that's the blind leading the blind, leave them alone. But what's going to happen is this issue will be forced and will more than likely end up in some court case somewhere. And I don't know why any court would hear this, because it is essentially the decision of the doctrines of that particular denomination. And that's like people who are, maybe people who are like, who take vows, like a Nazirite vow, not to cut their hair. Could you then say to somebody, well, you're not allowed to keep that vow because that's your religious freedom. You must cut your hair. Now, it all sounds pretty goofy, but stay tuned, because this will morph itself into something completely different depending on how this is dealt with in the legal frame. And I hate to say it, but this is one place in one time where I just wish, and I'm not sexist, I'm not a feminist, I'm not a chauvinist, I have no position, but I wish these women would just shut up. Because they're the ones that are going to bring this to a legal head, which if it is brought into court, the question will be, how could a court decide what a church's constitution and bylaws decree? How can a court decide that? Technically, by law, it shouldn't. But the day and age we live in, who knows? So just stay tuned. This will get more interesting as time goes by. But that's why I said this interest in Jude is not some random thought process here. It's for us to glean and see we need to stay strong and stay committed to the path that we're on. This is not something weird. This is just saying stay the course, stay strong in the faith. The devil is going to put up every roadblock to make sure that the church either cowers in some grip of fear or changes the message to please the masses. Well, that's already happened. But I think I can say this church is led by someone who's not a coward. I don't back away from stuff. Just don't come here and tell me what we can or cannot do here as I stand and preach the faith of Christ. Soon enough it'll say, well, you have to not say it's the faith of Christ, just say something more generic. You think I'm kidding you. We better pay attention, because these times are coming. And believe me, if this one thing takes off in a court, you will see more of these coming to light with people who just feel it is their right to have their voice heard in a place, by the way, that there should only be one voice being heard, and that's the voice that speaks to us through these pages. So, stay tuned. If you don't want to listen to the news, I don't blame you, but I'll keep you posted as these things develop. In the meantime, we're going to keep contending or agonizing for the faith we have received. Hold on, folks. Don't let go. Get on the telephone.